I'm on the brilliantly named Golden Valley Railway line, which runs between Swindon and Gloucester and has 3 intermediate stations. The first is Kemble, which I will return to another time as it is the closest station to the source of the River Thames. I've instead come to Stroud and I'm going to be walking along the canal to Stonehouse because considering I'm heading towards Gloucester and Cheltenham for the day, why not check out the 2 other stations in between? And here it is, the Thames and Severn Canal. Named so as it connects 2 of the biggest and most infamous rivers in the country together. And I've got about a 3-mile walk along the towpath here to Stonehouse. By the way, all this here is the remains of an old brewery that used to sit here. In fact, this is known as Brewery Bridge. It does seem like it also has the name of Stroud Water Navigation. I should point out that it is spitting with rain. I can tell from walking through here that this is quite an industrial part of the canal. I knew that the weather today was not the most ideal. It should clear up by this afternoon, hopefully. It was kind of just this canal section where I thought I was going to be caught out in the rain, and I have been. That's kind of the reason why I'm not doing like a proper walk that I would usually do today, and I'm kind of getting a lot of trains in between locations. But saying that, by the end of today, I think I would have walked just as much as I would have done if I was out doing one of my usual all day long walks. I don't mind it though. I can put up with this level of rain. I hardly ever go out when it's raining anyway, so this is kind of a bit of a different experience for me to be walking quite a bit in the rain. Also, with looking like the rain's going to stick around for the next few days, I wouldn't have really had an opportunity to go out and do an adventure, so I'm making the most of it today, and I've come very far away from London to do so. Last surviving crane on the Cotswold canals. Trust me to stop and read an information board instead of speeding along the towpaths so I'm not out in the rain for longer. There is a lot of puddles along the towpath. I mean, we did have some very heavy rain last night and obviously it has not gone away yet. Loving this old mill slash wharf type building here by the canal. I've made it up into a place called Ebley now, I believe. The thing with being this far away from London in a completely unfamiliar part of the country which I've never come to is that I don't know anywhere around here. I'm seeing signs for places which I've never even heard of. Next little place along the Stroud Water Navigation is Ryford, which I've just learnt used to have an old station on a railway from Stonehouse to Nailsworth, part of the Midland Railway. I thought about coming off of the towpath to go and have a look at it, but apparently there's nothing left to see, so it's not really worth it. Our walk along the canal is coming to an end, and I've come across a leaflet for the Cotswold canals. Even has the Ebley Mill on it. I want to take one, but I have to make sure I don't let it get wet. The last bridge that I'm passing underneath on this canal walk is actually the railway bridge which would have carried that old Midland Railway line. I was going to go to that last bridge, but I thought, considering I realised it was a footpath, that I'll actually walk this old railway line towards Stonehouse instead. Regent Street. Might just pop into Hamleys before I get to the station. Well, I've made it to the station. I'm at Stonehouse. I have about 25 minutes until my train, so I'm just kind of going to hang out for a bit. Really enjoyed that little canal walk. On to Gloucester now though. Now, Colchester station has the longest platform in the UK at 620 metres. However, trains actually have to cross over, whilst for pedestrians it is continuous. Therefore, you could argue that actually here at Gloucester has the longest platform in the UK at 602 metres, because it is continuous. You could fit, I don't know, how many carriages could you fit? Loads. So on with my tour of Gloucester, I'm starting off with some coloured houses. This is unusual, but I really like it because it's so much better than just having a boring, like, brown bricked house. I have to admit that so far I'm finding Gloucester to be pretty grim, but what I am liking is the fact that there's a bit of old Roman wall which you can still see here. Now, although the shopping areas and around the station seem to be quite grimy here in Gloucester, I mean, look at this old market hall building. There are some nice historical bits, like right next door, the ruins of an old church, Gloucester Greyfriars. Quite cool to get to wander around and explore this. This reminds me of Colchester in a way, because that also has a ruined church, St Botolph's. It's closed as part of Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries in 1538. I've come to have a little look at Gloucester Park, which I've been in one before in Basildon, if you ever watched that video. But what Basildon's Gloucester Park didn't have was an aviary. Bet you could maybe hear the birds in the background, couldn't you? Made it into Gloucester Quays now, and all of a sudden I really like Gloucester. This feels like the newer and nicer part of it. The old wharfs and docks turn into a market area. I'm going to say that this is all old railway land, full of sidings with trains that would have serviced the docks. And then I came across a bit of preserved track that they left in place. That's a nice touch. I was quick to judge on Gloucester. I didn't like it straight away around the station and the high street, but this bit's really nice. I'm now at what I think is a canalised branch of the River Severn itself, and the skies are even starting to lighten up a bit. Okay, it seems like it's called the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal, which opened in 1827, and this is the very, very end of it, just as it's meeting the River Severn. And here it is, the River Severn, the longest river in the country. And it's right opposite the old Gloucester prison. Here is the old prison gates. I believe nowadays it's like a museum. It no longer actually is a prison. I feel like I'm heading back into the grimy parts of Gloucester again now. Yeah, that blue sky was a lie. The heavens has opened up again. But no visit to a new city is complete unless you visit its cathedral. And it's a good one. I'm back at Gloucester on the extremely long platform. Luckily it was just a very quick shower. It stayed dry on my walk back to the station. Now that Gloucester is done, it's on to Cheltenham.
This is Cheltenham Park.
Except I've bypassed Cheltenham. I've come one stop up the line to Ashchurch for Tewkesbury, just because there's a bus coming. I think I might be going to Tewkesbury, just because I would have ended up missing out this station if I didn't end up coming here. It would have kind of sat all by itself. I just never would have ended up. I was going Gloucester actually. Today's trip is kind of an evolution from a trip which I didn't do 4 years ago, which was also to visit Gloucester. Back then, I was very focused on trying to stop at as many stations as possible in the country. But since then, I've now changed it to trying to actually visit as many stations as possible in the country. So that original trip to Gloucester, I would have done less exploring at places along the way. I wouldn't have seen as much of Gloucester. I definitely wouldn't have done the canal walk between Stroud and Stonehouse, and I wouldn't be going to explore Cheltenham now. I've scaled back them adventures to visit less stations per day, so I get to see more of where I'm actually going. And the reason why that trip never ended up happening was because I planned it for the first weekend of lockdown. So obviously I didn't do it. I would have ended up that day travelling further up the line towards Worcestershire Parkway, as that was a new station at the time. So I wouldn't have even jumped off here at Ashchurch for Tewkesbury. I might have even have gone to see the source of the River Thames that day, and even included some Welsh stations, as there are 2 routes from Gloucester that go towards Newport. Seems to be a weird, quiet little station that's not really situated exactly where it wants to be. And there's even a old spur of track off of the right here. One station sign and my ticket didn't even want to admit that Tewkesbury existed. This station actually reopened on the site of an old station back in 1997. I'm liking the almost heritage sign here for Ashchurch for Tewkesbury, plus the crossing gates and even an old water tower over there. The railway today at Cheltenham spurs to serve the Spa station, but it also used to continue straight down another branch, which you can still follow on foot. This old railway route I'm going to be following for the first half of my Cheltenham Explore, and I've already come across the site of one of the stations. This is Cheltenham Spa Malvern Road, which closed in 1966. I'm suspecting that this might be part of the platform down here. It's clear that this old railway bridge was expanded at some point. Potentially that's a walking route up here alongside the road. The railway line split here. We're following the left track, but trains could have went to the right to serve Cheltenham Spa St James before reversing back out and continuing on this route. That's essentially why the Malvern Road station was built, so trains didn't have to go into St James and reverse to continue. They could still serve Cheltenham Spa with a new station. On this clearly new built bridge, I mean this didn't carry the railway, did it? We are passing over the River Chelt itself down there. Here, this looks much more like an old railway bridge, doesn't it? I find it interesting that Strava still shows the old Cheltenham stations for some reason, but what it doesn't show is a station that used to be here called High Street Halt from 1907 to 1918. It didn't last long. The path has become quite narrow here and overgrown, so it's good when it opens up, when you go underneath the bridge. Clearly another new build bridge next to it. Path has opened up wide again. I actually hear a train to my right now on the actual railway towards Cheltenham Spa. Someone's burnt out a bike. We're in a cutting, and our walk along the old railway is coming to an end because, well, there's a tunnel in the way. What a magnificent structure. This gaping hole ready to swallow up a train at 100 miles an hour, and now is just lying there, being reclaimed by nature. How cool is it that this is still here? It's not a particularly long tunnel, but you can see why I can no longer carry along this railway line. Because, well, the tracks still exist There's buffers in there, there's wagons in there, because past this point actually lies a heritage railway line. I just really, really love that it's still here and there's nobody here at all. Well, because I can no longer walk along the old railway, that means I've got to change my walk. So I'm going to head up this way instead. To think that it was raining earlier, from getting wet on the canal to being hot in the middle of a field, from the almost terrifying sounds of a downpour on top of Paddington Station, to this. Amazing. Didn't think that I would be coming all the way to Cheltenham, did you? And not coming to have a look at the racecourse. Always try to have a look at a racecourse if there's one in the area, and luckily there's a public footpath that runs up right alongside it. What an incredible view of the Malvern Hills in the distance. That would be a good walk to do one day. You can't see much of the racecourse. It's not like your Epsom Downs where you're allowed to go into the middle of it, but it is one of the most infamous ones in the country. And I've walked all the way up to come and have a look at the heritage railway station that is Cheltenham Racecourse. GWR, Great Western Railway. In fact, well, actually it's the GWSR, because it's the Gloucestershire and Warwickshire Steam Railway. Yeah, that's it. This railway line would have ran back in the day all the way up to Stratford upon Avon. That would be a handy connection to have nowadays. This might be the only good view, not even a good view, we're going to get of the station, because I've actually got to start making my way all the way back towards Cheltenham and the town and the Spa station. I've just had the realisation that I've come all the way from London to Cheltenham Racecourse and I haven't even watched the races or gone on the Heritage Railway line. Who does this? You do actually get a good view of the railway from on top of the bridge, to be honest. You just gotta ignore the noise of the cars. And from here you're looking back towards the railway tunnel, which we were on the other side of. Maybe there wouldn't be so many people in their cars if this railway line still existed. What grand park gates leading into Pittville Park, where I just came out of. Even though the actual park itself is a little bit further up on the other side of this cul-de-sac. There's some nice houses in the Pittville Park estate. I feel like I'm walking through a rich street in London. I guess that's what you get in a spa town. I was really tired on my walk back to Cheltenham Spa, so I just took photos instead of videos, passing by the municipal offices and the town hall. And remember when I mentioned Basildon earlier? Well, when we were there, we came across an old Toys R Us. Since then, they've actually made a comeback and have opened some smaller stores, this one attached to a W.H. Smith in Cheltenham. I made it back to the station. I was shattered. A lot of travelling around on trains and a lot of walking. I thoroughly enjoyed my day out though, and getting to explore new parts of the country for me. And catching what I think is the last train of the night back to London. I seem to always get back to London at about midnight nowadays. This time around 11 PM, though by the time I get home it will be midnight. I made a tactical move by sitting backwards because the train at Gloucester actually reverses. It's quite an odd movement for such a massive mainline intercity train, so that I will be facing forwards for the majority of my journey. And yeah, well, I'm actually here at Paddington. We stopped on the platform, but the doors haven't opened. We're coupling up to a train in front. We're a 5 car. Whoa! Which means we're now at the very, very back of the platform. I've got a longer walk now. Thanks, Great Western Railway. Time to go home. What is this? Coca-Cola spiced? Spiced? Never heard of that in my life.